In a league of titans, the game's most sacred names are spoken in duets. Jordan and Pippen, Shaq and Kobe, LeBron and Wade. One star rises, the other sharpens him. That's how it's always been. That's how it's supposed to be. But somewhere between the noise and all the banners, a different story unfolded. One not built on alliances or assembled might, but on silence, patience, and a fadeaway that floated like a whisper into the night. He didn't command headlines. He didn't chase co-stars. He stayed in one city. He bore every loss. And when the moment finally came, when the bright lights burned hottest, he stood alone and did the one thing that none of the others could. No safety net, no second option, no shadow beside him. Just one man, one shot, one banner. This is the story of He was a lanky, awkward kid from Würzburg, Germany, more interested in handball and tennis than basketball. Standing nearly a foot taller than his peers, Dirk Nowitzki was labeled a freak on the tennis court. No one, and I mean no one, could have envisioned him transforming into an NBA legend, a champion, and a global icon. Our story begins far from the bright lights of NBA arenas. In the quiet Bavarian city of Würzburg, Germany, born into an athletic family, Dirk Nowitzki seemed destined for sports, but not basketball. His early passions were handball and tennis. And while he thrived, his towering height made him stand out for all the wrong reasons. Dirk longed for a game where his size was a strength, not a stigma. That moment came in 1992 when the US Olympic Dream Team dazzled the world. Jordan's grace, Barkley's power, Pippen's control. It struck a chord. Basketball was Dirk's answer. At age 15, Dirk joined DJK Würzburg and caught the eye of Holger Geschwindner, a former German national team captain turned basketball philosopher. Holger saw the game as art and Dirk as his canvas. He rejected traditional weightlifting, believing it caused unnecessary friction. Their training blended art, science, and sport. To refine footwork, Dirk took fencing and waltz lessons. For rhythm, he learned saxophone and dribbled to live jazz. He studied physics to learn shot geometry, recited poetry, and even absorbed opera, building not just a player, but a complete individual. Then came the jumper. Using math and physics, Holger designed the perfect 45-degree arc, nearly impossible to contest. The drills were bizarre and brutal. Fingertip push-ups, deep squat jumpers, spins into shots. Every movement had a purpose. Every rep sculpted Dirk into a weapon the world had never seen.
Gonna see you in the NBA, maybe another Detlef Shrimp someday?
Oh, I hope so, I don't know yet.
After a year of intense training, Holger offered Dirk a pivotal choice: remain a local hero or fully commit to competing against the world's best. Dirk chose the challenge of global competition, dedicating himself relentlessly to daily practice, matching his mentor's eccentric genius with tireless determination. By 16, Dirk was starting for DJK Würzburg's professional squad, soon dominating Germany's second division league. His talent quickly captured attention overseas, culminating in the 1998 Nike Hoop Summit in San Antonio, Texas. Facing America's elite high school stars, Dirk delivered a stunning 33-point, 14-rebound performance, announcing himself emphatically to the basketball world.
It's Dirk Nowitzki, this 17-year-old, hard-working phenomenon with his special coach, who put him in cement shoes to make him run faster. It was very intriguing.
The German wonderkind had officially arrived. The 1998 NBA draft was a storm of backroom deals and confusion. The Dallas Mavericks, a team stuck in a decade of losing, were desperate for a savior. GM Don Nelson wanted the lanky German, but he knew the other teams did too. So he pulled off a legendary draft day heist.
With the 9th pick in the 1998 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
The Mavericks officially picked Robert Tractor Trailer at number 6. The Milwaukee Bucks took Dirk Nowitzki at number 9. And a few moments later, the trade was announced. Trailer was going to Milwaukee. In return, Dallas got Nowitzki and another pick, Pat Garrity, who they immediately flipped to Phoenix for a young, unproven point guard named Steve Nash. In one move, Nelson had landed the two players who would change everything for the Dallas Mavericks franchise. Dirk and Nash became instant best friends. Two international guys trying to figure out a new country. But their first year together couldn't have been more different. For Dirk, the transition was a nightmare. The 98-99 season was cut short by a lockout, meaning no summer league, no real training camp, and a brutal schedule. From a 20-year-old from Würzburg, it was baptism by fire. Dirk Nowitzki arrived in the United States in 1998 with wide eyes and a quiet confidence. A 7-foot teenager from Würzburg suddenly dropped into the chaos of NBA life in Dallas. He barely spoke English, ate mostly pasta, and missed home so badly it haunted his first season. The culture shock hit fast. He didn't understand fast food drive-thrus, the locker room banter, or why his teammates kept calling him Rook. And on the court, well, that was brutal. Coach Don Nelson slotted Dirk at power forward, where his raw frame and unfamiliarity with the NBA game left him completely exposed. He was skinny, slow on defense, and unsure where to be on offense. Stronger, savvier forwards pushed him around with ease. Opponents bullied him, fans booed him, and the media, they mocked him. They called him Dirk Nowitzki, leaving off the D because, well, he had none. In his first NBA game, he went 0 for 5 and scored just 2 points. By the end of his first season, he was averaging just 8 points and 3.5 rebounds. It rattled him. At one point during that miserable rookie year, he called his mentor Holger and begged him to come back to Germany. Holger refused, told him to stick it out, told him that he was built for more. Dirk Nowitzki didn't go back to Germany after his rookie season. Instead, he stayed in Dallas, bruised but determined. That summer became a turning point. Quietly, away from the spotlight, he made a vow. Never again would he feel that lost or that weak on an NBA court. Holger Geschwindner flew in from Germany and became a shadow in Dirk's gym sessions, obsessing over balance, shooting angles, and rhythm. Dirk finally started eating better, lifting heavier, and running harder. He put on muscle, improved his footwork, and focused relentlessly on his signature weapon, that high-arcing, off-one-leg fadeaway. He even studied English more seriously so he could fully understand his coaches and connect with teammates. He wasn't just training his body, he was rebuilding himself from the inside out. And when his second season began in 1999, it showed. Dirk was still awkward at times, but now he had confidence. His jumper looked smoother. He attacked closeouts, moved better without the ball. He no longer looked like he didn't belong. His scoring jumped to 17.5 points per game. He shot over 38% from deep and started punishing defenders who laughed at him that year before. He wasn't a star yet, but he was no longer a punchline. The Mavericks themselves began to shift. Don Nelson was fully in control now, both as a coach and GM. And the team was starting to revolve around a young emerging core. Dirk, Steve Nash, and Michael Finley. Nash in particular became essential to Dirk's growth, both on and off the floor. The two clicked instantly. Nash brought the pace, creativity, and confidence to the offense, and Dirk fed off that freedom. They became close friends, roommates on the road, and eventually one of the most exciting duos in the league. The team still missed the playoffs in 2000, but the energy around them had changed. The Mavs were no longer the laughingstock of the league. Dirk wasn't a project anymore. He was a problem. And for the first time, Dallas had a future worth watching. Quick side note, if you guys are enjoying the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It would really help me reach my goal of 10,000 subs. Also, follow my Twitch where I stream Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. That link, as well as my Discord, will be down below. Okay, back to the video. By Dirk's third year in the league, the questions had faded. He was no longer seen as an experiment or a soft European project. He was a matchup nightmare. Too quick for bigs, too tall for wings, and too skilled to be ignored. His shot had become a legitimate weapon. And though he wasn't fully comfortable being the guy yet, you could feel it brewing. Alongside Steve Nash and Michael Finley, Dirk helped push the Mavericks into the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. Dallas wasn't just relevant again. They were electric. New owner Mark Cuban had already made his presence felt. He was loud, hands-on, and willing to spend.
That I'm willing to commit as much money as it takes, whatever energy, funding, to make this team successful.
Cuban overhauled everything. Facilities, staff, equipment, even player nutrition. Dallas looked like a franchise with real infrastructure and ambition. Their first postseason test came against the Utah Jazz, Stockton and Malone. Tough, experienced, and cold-blooded. The Mavs dropped the first 2 games and looked overwhelmed. But then, something clicked. Dirk, still shaky on defense, started playing with an edge on offense. He hit jumpers in traffic, drove to the rim with purpose, and showed flashes of this killer instinct that would define him years later. Dallas won 3 straight and advanced. But the reward? The Spurs. The Admiral and Mr. Fundamental himself. San Antonio exposed every soft spot Dallas had, and the series wasn't even close. San Antonio knocked them out in just 5 games. It was a reminder that Dallas was still climbing, still figuring out how to win at the highest level. The next season, the Mavericks were even better. Don Nelson let Dirk loose, and the offense exploded. The ball zipped from Nash to Finley to Dirk, and teams just couldn't keep up. Dirk was playing with more polish, more composure, and more fire. He wasn't just floating around the perimeter anymore. He was mixing in post-ups, driving into contact, and hitting step backs with defenders draped all over him. They won 57 games and drew Minnesota in the first round. Kevin Garnett versus Dirk was billed as a battle of unicorns. Two skilled, unorthodox forwards leading flawed but dangerous teams. Dirk absolutely dominated. In the clincher, he dropped 39 points and looked like the best player on the floor. That led them to Sacramento in the second round, a team loaded with talent and physicality. Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, Vlade Divac. They moved the ball like the 80s Celtics and hit you like the 90s Knicks. Dirk played well, but the Kings were deeper and nastier. They pushed Dallas around and closed the series out in 5. It wasn't a failure, but it was clear. The Mavericks still lacked the grit and toughness needed to go the distance. Then came 2003. This was the year that Dirk arrived. Not as a star, but as a superstar. He played with a calm violence, a steadiness in his game that hadn't fully formed before. The Mavericks won 60 games and looked like real contenders for the first time in decades. Dirk wasn't flashy. He didn't talk much, but his footwork was surgical. His jumper was unguardable, and that fadeaway was starting to feel unfair. In the first round of the playoffs, they faced Portland. What looked like an easy series turned into a nightmare. Dallas jumped out to a 3-0 lead, only for the Blazers to claw back and force a Game 7. But Dirk saved them.
Nash out to Nowitzki. He's open. He got it!
He delivered when everything tightened, dropping key buckets and securing rebounds in traffic to close out the series. The pressure was immense, but he never flinched. Next came the rematch with Sacramento. The Kings are even stronger now, but the Mavs weren't afraid anymore. This series turned into an absolute war. Game 7 in Dallas, and Dirk took over. 30 points, 19 rebounds, and pure domination. This was definitely his signature moment up to that point. But then came, yep, you guessed it, San Antonio in the Western Conference Finals. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and at the helm, Greg Popovich. The Spurs didn't just want to win. They wanted to grind you into dust. The first 2 games were tight, and Dirk was brilliant, matching Duncan step for step. But Game 3 changed everything. Dirk drove into the lane, collided with Ginobili, and came down wrong. His knee bent awkwardly, hyperextension, done for the series. He sat on the bench in street clothes, helpless as the Spurs closed them out in just 6 games. For the first time, the finals felt within reach, and it slipped away. That summer, Dallas made a splash. They traded for Antoine Jamison, looking to add scoring and depth. On paper, the idea was to overwhelm teams with offensive firepower. Dirk, Jamison, Finley, and Nash all sharing the load. But it was too much offense and not enough defense. The chemistry just never clicked. Dirk played well, but the Mavs lacked cohesion and structure. The result was a step backwards. They made the playoffs again, but ran into the Kings for a 3rd time. They pounded Dallas physically, exposed their defensive flaws, and ended the series in 5. It was clear that this version of the Mavericks was not built to last. Behind the scenes, things were fraying. Dirk's closest friend on the team and his partner in the pick and pop was becoming increasingly unhappy with the direction of the franchise. He didn't feel valued. He wasn't wrong.
This week is better. Season starts better. We got to build now.
We had one specific goal and one specific purpose, and that purpose is sitting right next to me.
Then came the summer of 2004.
All right, welcome back. It's great for me to be back. My teammates and I have been working really hard. We think we're going to have a hell of a year.
The Suns offered $65 million. Mark Cuban refused to match it. He claimed that the budding point guard wasn't worth the money. Steve Nash was gone. Dirk was crushed. He later called it the lowest moment of his career up to that point. Nash had been more than a teammate. He was his brother in arms, his translator in the locker room, his emotional anchor. Now, Dirk was alone. And for the first time, it truly became his franchise. That following season, something changed in Dirk. He didn't smile as much. He played with a different edge, a controlled rage. No more deferring, no more looking to Nash to run the show. He owned every possession. Even with a revolving door at point guard and a new coach mid-season, Avery Johnson replacing Don Nelson, the Mavs held strong. Johnson brought more discipline and defensive focus. The offense was still high-powered, but it wasn't the freewheeling chaos of the past. Dirk led the charge in the playoffs, starting with a bloodbath of a series against the Houston Rockets. Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming came out firing. McGrady even declared it was over after going up 2-0. Man, that guy just does not learn, huh? But Dallas clawed back. Game 7 was a demolition. Dirk scored, rebounded, defended, and played like a man possessed. That was personal. The Mavs won by 40. Then came the second round and a familiar face. Steve Nash, now an MVP, now leading the most exciting offense in basketball. Suns vs. Mavs was pure fireworks. The series was close, but Phoenix had the better rhythm, the faster pace, and the deeper bench. Nash outdueled Dirk this time. The Suns closed it out in 6 games. But the Mavericks had turned a corner. They had a young core. Josh Howard, Jason Terry, Marquise Daniels. They had a coach who demanded accountability. And most importantly, they had a version of Dirk who wasn't just trying to fit in anymore. He was done playing nice. Done waiting for his turn. The pretty boy Mavs were gone. The killers were coming. 2006 wasn't just another season. It was the season. The one where everything changed for Dirk. For years, he heard the same things. That he was soft, that he couldn't lead, that his numbers didn't mean anything when it mattered the most, that he needed Nash to shine, that the Mavericks would never win with a European as their best player. Dirk had no safety nets left, just pressure, and he welcomed it. From the start of the year, there was a shift in his demeanor. He wasn't animated. He wasn't loud. He was surgical, quietly devastating. He'd seen Nash go to Phoenix and become an MVP. And instead of sulking, Dirk responded by reinventing his game. He posted up more, took contact willingly, got to the line. His leadership may have not been loud, but it was unshakable. In the locker room, teammates said he was different now, more locked in, more vocal, more demanding. He wasn't just a part of the culture anymore. He was the culture, and it showed on the floor. Dallas ripped through the regular season with purpose. Avery Johnson had instilled a sense of structure and accountability that Dirk embraced. He wasn't just scoring, he was defending, rebounding, setting hard screens, and taking over in clutch moments. And then the playoffs came, and Dirk caught fire. First up was Memphis, a sweep, plain and simple, no celebrations, no extra noise. Just straight up business. Then came San Antonio, a second round war that felt like a Western Conference final. Duncan versus Dirk, 2 franchises that hated each other. Every game was a grind. Every possession was a fistfight. Then came Game 7 in San Antonio. This was a career-defining moment. With less than 30 seconds left, Dallas was down 3. And, well,
of the second half, Nowitzki goes right at Bowen. And the foul!
one of the gutsiest and most unappreciated plays of his career. And of course, he hit the free throw. The game went into overtime, and Dirk took over. That was supposed to be the hurdle, the mountain that they could never climb. The defending champs were out, and Dirk had answered every critic in one series. The conference finals felt lighter after that. Phoenix had the speed, sure. Nash had narrative, but Dallas had control. Dirk's 50-point explosion in Game 5 was a masterclass in skill and patience. Just pure, methodical dominance. Dallas won this series in 6 games, and for the first time in franchise history, they were going to the NBA Finals.
You know, we can't relax now as we did in Game 4. We came out slacking, and they took it to us. So we got to be ready to play, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks for your time, Dirk. All right.
Dirk was finally on the mountaintop, but not for long. The 2006 Finals were supposed to be a coronation. 2 games in, and it looked like one. Dallas crushed Miami in Games 1 and 2. Dirk was efficient, poised, and unbothered. The Mavericks had all the momentum, and for a brief moment, it felt inevitable. A title, a legacy rewritten, a European-born superstar finally leading his team to the promised land.
Flies at him. Here's Nowitzki with another 3. Good. Dirk Nowitzki sticks another one.
And then we had Game 3 in Miami. Despite Dwayne Wade having 18 free throws in Game 3, the Mavs led late. Everything was clicking until...
If he gets you in a bad way underneath the basket, foul. Foul!
They choked the lead. Game 3 went to Miami after Wade's heroics. Game 4, another Heat win. The Mavericks looked rattled, and the tone of the series had completely changed. Dirk missed a free throw that could have tied it late. The ball bounced off the rim, and with it, their control slipped further away. Wade had taken over, but the officiating had started to cast a long and bitter shadow. Then came Game 5, the moment where everything broke. Dallas led by 1 in overtime. Miami inbounded. Dirk screamed at his teammates to foul before Wade could drive, and they didn't. Wade got into the paint again.
Almost goes down. All right, and now as he splits through, he gets caught on the leg.
Foul, free throws, the same script. But what followed was worse. After the game, Mavs owner Mark Cuban exploded. So did head coach Avery Johnson. And in the tunnel, after yet another Wade free throw parade, Dirk kicked a stationary bike in disgust. That singular clip of Dirk losing control became the image of this NBA Finals. Game 6 back in Dallas was suffocating. The crowd was electric, desperate, and nervous. But the magic was gone. Wade couldn't be touched without a whistle. The Heat closed the game, the series, and the Mavericks. It was over. Dirk had led his team into the finals. He had outdueled Duncan, outlasted Nash. He had climbed the mountain and come within one win of the title. But now, all anyone wanted to talk about was the loss, the choke, the missed free throw, the so-called meltdown. Hold up. I can't move on with our story without mentioning this. Dwayne Wade attempted 97 free throws in the 2006 NBA Finals. That's not a typo. 97. And well, he made 75 of them. In game 5 alone, Wade shot 25 free throws. That was more than the entire Mavericks team combined. Anytime he drove, arms flailed, whistles blew, and the scoreboard shifted. We live in an era now where fans lose their minds watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander do a head fake and draw a foul. They scream about foul baiting and manipulating the refs. But if those same fans sat down and watched the 2006 finals, they'd be clawing at the walls. Wade was practically sponsored by the whistle. Whew. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. I'm a big Dwayne Wade fan, but I just can't move on without mentioning that. Anyways, the league fined Cuban. The officiating crew came under fire, and behind the scenes, there was a real outrage in Dallas. Even veteran players felt the league had forced a narrative that the officiating wasn't just inconsistent, it was targeted. But none of that mattered in the end. The record books don't keep excuses, only results. Dirk flew back to Germany that summer emotionally shattered, exhausted, embarrassed, and worn down from carrying a franchise that had collapsed under the brightest lights. Everyone around him said the same thing. Dirk was inconsolable. Not angry, just broken. He had tasted the finals. He had felt how close it was. Fairly or not, he was now branded with a new label, choker. The season after the finals collapse should have been redemptive, and for a while, it was. Dirk came back and was playing out of his mind. More efficient than ever, more in control, more ruthless. He led the Mavericks to 67 wins, the best record in the NBA. Dirk was nearly automatic for mid-range, and late in games, he was calm and surgical. He wasn't chasing stats, he was chasing closure. He won the league MVP, but the celebration never came, because what happened next would become one of the darkest chapters in NBA history. The Mavericks, as the #1 seed, were matched against the 8th seeded Golden State Warriors. They were led by Baron Davis and coached by Dirk's old mentor, Don Nelson. The Warriors had beaten Dallas twice late in the regular season and had perfect personnel to harass Dirk. Long wings, quick traps, no fear. Golden State came out with energy and chaos. The crowd in Oakland was volcanic, and Dirk, he vanished.
He heads back to the bench in what has been a nightmare. 2 for 13. Only 8 points in his 39 minutes.
Don Nelson's schemes doubled him before he could turn, swarmed him on the catch, baited him into bad shots. His teammates looked frozen, his body language sagged. Game 6 ended in a disaster, with Dirk shooting 2 for 13. And just like that, their season was over. A #8 seed absolutely embarrassing the #1 seed. Dirk's MVP speech came days after the elimination, in a small, awkward hotel ballroom. No celebration, just shame. People have come to the conclusion that Dirk wasn't a leader, that he couldn't rise under pressure, that he would never win. And for a while there, they were right. The next season was turbulent. Dallas looked like a team still stuck in a fog. They were still good, but the trauma of 06 and 07 lingered. Then in February, they made a massive trade. Devin Harris and draft picks for Jason Kidd. The Mavs were banking on Kidd's experience, leadership, and floor general skills to unlock their championship window. But it didn't click right away. Kidd was older, slower, and still adjusting to Avery Johnson's system. Dirk, meanwhile, was caught in between, trying to maintain his dominance while adapting to a roster now in flux. He still carried them to 51 wins, but the team lacked a certain rhythm. And then came the playoffs, where they got bounced in the first round, again. This time by Chris Paul and the rising New Orleans Hornets. It wasn't close. CP3 carved them up. Dallas looked outdated, slow, and tired. Avery Johnson was fired after that series, and with him gone, the Mavericks lost whatever structure or identity they had left. The fast-paced, freewheeling offense of the Don Nelson era was long gone, and now the rigid, defense-first approach under Johnson had collapsed too. The team was stuck in between, no longer young and fun, but not disciplined or cohesive enough to contend. Dirk was 30, and for the first time, it felt like his window was finally closing. That was true until Rick Carlisle entered. Smart, poised, and methodical, Carlisle brought stability, and more importantly, he empowered Dirk to take complete control. Dirk responded. He was efficient and unguardable as always, but the team around him still lacked that final gear. Kidd was a better fit now, and Josh Howard, Jason Terry, and Brandon Bass gave them depth, but they still weren't elite. They faced the Spurs in the first round. Still dangerous, still loaded, but Dirk lit them up. Game 3 was a vintage performance. Fadeaways, turnarounds, dagger jumpers. Dallas took the series in 5 games. It felt like that corner had finally been turned. Then came Denver and Carmelo Anthony, hungry and in his prime. The Nuggets were faster, deeper, and nastier. Dirk had no help, and Game 3 was the backbreaker.
Have one more chance. Dirk for the win. Not gonna happen. The Nuggets, ecstatic, Mark Cuban and company, as you would imagine.
The refs also didn't call a foul on this. Even the league admitted it afterwards, but that didn't change the outcome. Denver closed them out in 5 games. Another year, another playoff exit. All right, guys, stay with me now because we're almost there. The Mavericks made another win now move, trading for Caron Butler and Brendan Haywood mid-season. It worked. Dallas finished with 55 wins and looked dangerous again. Dirk was consistent and still one of the league's most efficient scorers. He had mastered his spots. Nobody could block a shot. But in the playoffs, they drew San Antonio again. This was a strange series. Dallas won game 1 easily, but then it unraveled. The Spurs baited Dirk into taking everything by himself. He really tried, but his teammates disappeared. Caron Butler wasn't healthy, Kidd looked old, Sean Marion was inconsistent, and Dallas lost in 6. After the series, the media did what they always did. They blamed Dirk, called the Mavericks frauds. They questioned if Dirk should just leave, go chase a ring somewhere else. He was about to turn 32, but as you guys know, Dirk didn't run. Strap in, because here we go. The 2010-2011 Mavericks weren't supposed to win the NBA title. They were too old, too slow, too European. Miami had just formed a juggernaut. Boston still had their big 3. The Lakers were gunning for a three-peat. San Antonio had reloaded, and OKC had finally arrived. Dallas, they were afterthoughts. But internally, something was different. Tyson Chandler had changed the entire defensive culture. Jason Kidd was reinvented, no longer the fast break artist, now a half-court sniper and defensive savant. Sean Marion was doing the dirty work. Jason Terry was still the flamethrower. JJ Barea was chaos in a tiny body. Rick Carlisle had finally figured out the formula. And at the center of it all, Dirk. Calm, brutal, relentless. They opened the playoffs against the Trailblazers. Game 1 had your vintage mid-range fadeaways. Game 2, 33 points. But Game 4 was the test. Dallas blew a 23-point lead, and Brandon Roy went nuclear. People started to whisper again, but not this time. Dirk responded with 25 points in Game 5, then buried Portland with 33 in Game 6. No panic, no collapse, just cold execution. Then came the defending champion Lakers. Kobe Bryant, Phil Jackson, Pau Gasol, 3 finals appearances in a row. The Mavericks weren't just underdogs. People expected them to get embarrassed. Game 1 was a statement. Dirk hit big shots late. Dallas stole it. Game 2 was a bit tighter, but Dallas sealed it. Game 3, utter dominance. Game 4 was bloodshed. Dallas won by 36. Jason Terry hit 9 threes.
To Terry for 3, yes! 9 3-point baskets. That ties the NBA record.
Barea carved the Lakers up, and Dirk, calm and as efficient as always.
The greatest Dallas Maverick ever.
It was the final game of Phil Jackson's coaching career. The Mavericks humiliated the defending champs.
We knocked the champ out. Now it's time to go handle the rest of our business.
Next came the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Youth, athleticism, speed. Game 1 was the warning shot. Dirk dropped 48 points. 15 of them were free throws, but he shot 12 of 15 from the field. One of the most efficient, unguardable playoff performances ever.
Nowitzki, little fake, pull up, puts it in.
The Thunder pushed them. They had fire, but Dallas had composure. They came back from down 15 in Game 4, with Dirk scoring 12 straight in crunch time. Game 5 was a wrap. Dallas was headed back to the NBA Finals.
For the second time in franchise history, the Dallas Mavericks will play for the NBA championship.
5 years after the most painful collapse of his life, Dirk had clawed his way back.
NBA Finals, here we come.
Dallas wasn't supposed to be here. Not in the era of super teams, not with an aging roster and no all-stars outside of Dirk. They weren't flashy, they weren't marketable. They were built, not assembled. And at the center of it all was a 32-year-old German who had spent a decade chasing ghosts. Meanwhile, on the other side, Miami had the blueprint. The big three, the Heatles, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. 3 future Hall of Famers all in their prime, standing under the brightest spotlight the NBA had seen since Jordan. The Heat were younger, faster, deeper. The title was already being engraved. This one wasn't supposed to be a fight, but Dirk never cared about supposed to. Let's start with Miami taking game 1. Wade and LeBron were flexing, hitting deep threes, strutting back down the floor. American Airlines Arena felt like a coronation.
Wade, alley-oop to James!
But Dirk still managed to drop 27 points despite tearing a tendon in his left middle finger. He didn't flinch. He just taped it up and kept going. That wasn't supposed to be a moment, but in hindsight, it told you everything. The Mavericks may have lost the battle, but Dirk had just drawn his sword. Game 2 was where history began to shift. Miami went up 88-73 with 7 minutes left in the fourth. The Heat started to showboat again. Wade hitting a dagger and holding his follow-through for the crowd. But Dallas didn't fold. Dirk orchestrated one of the most cold-blooded comebacks in finals history. A 22-5 run to close the game. Fingers still taped, he scored the final 9 points, including
Nowitzki drives with underneath lefty layup, banks it in with 3.6 remaining.
That was the moment the Heat looked around and realized they weren't just playing a team. They were playing a man who refused to die. Game 3 was the swing game. Series tied 1-1, pressure building. Dallas fought hard, but Miami eked out a 2-point win. D Wade hit tough shots, Bosh came alive late, and LeBron did just enough to put the Heat ahead. But the real story hadn't surfaced yet. Between games 3 and 4, news broke. Dirk was sick. Not just a sniffle, fever over 101.
The night before, I go home and started shivering a little bit, it started to get cold. I was like, I'll probably just need to go to bed and I'll be great tomorrow, but it just didn't happen that way.
He looked like a ghost in warm-ups. Still, he said nothing publicly. No excuses, no drama. LeBron and Wade didn't keep it quiet though.
Think I'm sick.
Mocking Dirk publicly before game 4 of the NBA Finals. They thought it was just a laugh. What they really did was hand Dirk the final page of his redemption arc. Dirk never responded to the mocking. No press quotes, no trash talk. He just walked into game 4, visibly ill, red-faced, towel wrapped around his neck during timeouts, mouth hanging open to breathe, and still, he kept going. The Mavs trailed most of the night. Wade was on fire again. Dallas couldn't find a rhythm. But Dirk stayed close. And in the fourth quarter, he took over. Down 9 with 10 minutes left, Dallas started crawling back. Kid hit a corner 3, Terry banged in a step back, Chandler got a huge tip out. And with 14 seconds left,
drives underneath, layup, he puts it in! Nowitzki makes it a 3-point game!
The Mavs won 86-83. The series was tied. Dirk walked off dripping in sweat, barely able to lift his head, but he just landed a body blow that rattled Miami to its core. Back in Dallas, series tied 2-2, momentum even. But now, it was Miami who looked unsure. They looked shaken. This game was Dirk's supporting cast stepping up. But make no mistake, it was still his game. Barea got hot, Chandler controlled the glass, Terry hit huge shots, but the biggest shot of the night, maybe the entire series.
High arcing 3.
Wade had a chance to tie it late, missed 2 free throws. LeBron, just 2 points in the fourth quarter. Dirk outplayed the super team again, and Dallas took a 3-2 series lead.
Miami Heat, back-to-back losses for the first time in the playoffs. What a performance from the veteran Dallas Mavericks.
Back in Miami, the tension was thick. The pressure wasn't on Dallas. It was on the Heat, on LeBron, on Wade, on the not 1,
not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
dynasty that was supposed to start here. Dirk came out tight. He missed 11 of his first 12 shots. And for a moment, it felt like the ghosts of 2006 were back. But they weren't, because this time he had help. Jason Terry was brilliant. 27 points, confident, fearless, clutch. Barea got into the paint again and again. Marion defended like his life depended on it. Chandler did all the dirty work. Kid steadied the ship. And then Dirk came alive. In the second half, he found rhythm. Fadeaway, elbow jumper, transition layup, hook shot, and then the dagger. With just under 2 minutes left, he caught the ball on the right wing, sized up Bosh, and dropped in a rainbow fadeaway.
Dirk Nowitzki makes it a 10-point game.
Mavs up 9. Miami stunned. Wade and LeBron frozen. Dirk walked straight back to the bench, head down, emotion bubbling up. Then he walked into the locker room. No media moment, no glory chase, just solitude, just tears. He had waited 13 years for this. When he came out, the game was over.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. The first title in franchise history.
The arena was silent, not in awe, but in disbelief. Dirk Nowitzki had slayed the most talented team of the era. He had taken down a super team with no other superstar beside him after being mocked, after being doubted, after being torn apart in 2006. He stood on that stage with a finals MVP trophy and said nothing boastful. No jabs, no revenge speech, just gratitude. Because he didn't need validation anymore. Dirk Nowitzki did what Jordan never had to, what LeBron never pulled off, what Kobe, Duncan, Steph, and Shaq never even faced. He won an NBA championship with 0 other all-stars. No super team, no second banana, no exit route. Just one man, one team, and one long, painful, miraculous journey. Dirk never won another ring after 2011. And in truth, he didn't need to.
It's been an amazing ride, amazing journey. I was lucky enough to spend 13 years with the greatest fans in the NBA.
That title was the mountaintop. Everything he spent his career chasing, everything he'd been denied. But he didn't walk away after that. He didn't vanish like some storybook hero riding off into the sunset. No, Dirk kept playing, not for glory, not for validation. He kept showing up because that's who he was. Over the next few years, the league shifted around him. The pace quickened, big stretch to the floor because he had proven that it could work. Super teams multiplied, and while Dallas made a few playoff pushes, they never had enough. Cuban tried. There were swings and misses, recruiting pitches, last-minute trades, but the Mavericks never found that second star. They never found Dirk's Pippen. So he stayed loyal, and the city of Dallas stayed loyal in return. Mark Cuban made sure Dirk was always taken care of, not just with money, though he did that too, offering max deals even when Dirk insisted on taking less. It was respect. For the years, for the pain. His role in the team slowly changed. The legs got heavier, the minutes shorter, but that jumper, that one-legged fadeaway, still pure, still automatic. In his final season, he took on a quiet, crucial role, mentoring the next face of the franchise, Luka Doncic, the rookie phenom from Slovenia, carrying enormous expectations, walking into the league with hype Dirk had never been given. It was a passing of the torch that rarely gets talked about. No cameras, no headlines, just moments, locker room advice, film sessions, practice floor conversations between two European legends. One beginning his story, the other writing his final chapter. Dirk didn't chase farewell tours or orchestrated exits. He didn't care for the spotlight. But when the time came, when he announced that this was the end, the league showed up for him. Standing ovations in every arena, tributes from legends and rivals, emotional final home games in Dallas where every shot felt like history. He walked off the floor a living, breathing legend. And in 2023, the journey came full circle. Dirk Nowitzki was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, not as a dark horse or a sentimental pick, but as one of the greatest to ever touch the game. He stood alongside Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, and Dwayne Wade. Friends, rivals, champions. Fitting. Almost poetic. Dirk was humble, grateful, reflective. He thanked Holger. He thanked Dallas. He called his career a dream. He didn't just earn a spot in the Hall. He became a permanent part of the game's soul.
I've had so many great lessons taught to me by incredible teachers, and you will find them too. Remember, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. Thank you so much.
Dirk didn't rewrite history with headlines. He did it with silence, with patience, and with a fadeaway that never cared who was guarding it. In a league that rewards the loud, he whispered his greatness. 1 foot off the ground, one banner raised without a second star beside him. No super team, no drama, just devotion. From Würzburg to Dallas, from outcast to icon, Dirk Nowitzki gave the game something it rarely sees. Loyalty without condition, greatness without ego, glory without shortcuts. And when it was all over, he didn't wave, he didn't speak. He just turned and faded away, the same way he always did. If you guys want me to break down another player's career, let me know in the comments down below. And if you made it this far, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe. Not for me, but for Dirk, and a little for me. There's a couple videos on the screen right now that I think you'll love. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.